This is the Midwest End Pioneer Model Railroad Club. This is the main layout or permanent layout of the Midwest End Model Railroad Club. Midwest End Pioneer Model Railroad Club. Modeled by many individuals over many years. This is the third version of this layout. We've been forced to move 2 previous times. This is the smallest of our permanent layouts. This layout does not move, go anywhere, it just gets built onto. In here is our club room where we store lots of models and things like that. Currently we are in an open house. I'm here early, which is why we have all these train boxes stored here. Normally this is not in here. This is the staging room where we would store trains and load trains to move them out onto the main layout. We have 3 bottom tracks, a middle track, and 2 loading tracks on the top that merge into one that can head out onto the upper level of the layout. As you can see, the upper and lower level of the layout are connected by these multi-level helixes. The multi-level helix on this side is a 4 or 5 level helix, depending on which way you want to count it. The other one on the other side is a 3 level helix. This up here is an example of a strip mine modeled on a strip mine out in Braidwood, Illinois. Club member Fred Kaiser built this to decorate the top of the helix because it used to just be a big open space. He went out to the Braidwood Historical Society and did a bunch of research on strip mines where they would remove many meters of topsoil in order to expose an 8-foot thick layer of coal. This is a self-contained DCC loop. Train just goes around in a loop. However, you can exit out onto the main layout. Many of the models in this were modeled by Fred himself. He made the steam shovel from a kit. Modeled this car, which is sleeping quarters for the workers. They stayed on site. The helix is manufactured from 2 sets of plywood that were glued together. 2 1/4-inch sets of plywood, high-grade plywood to keep it from warping and such like that. The track is actually glued down to the plywood, which is the reason for this discoloration right here. They couldn't figure out any other way to do it other than to glue it down. Back half of the strip mine and a view from above. Down here is another creation of Fred Kaiser, a whimsical creation, Jim's Diamond Vine. He collected these little plastic diamonds at a wedding he was attending and decided he would make them into something, and so he made them into a diamond mine, where the diamonds that come out of this mine are, in fact, enormous. That's a non-functional thing. It's just there for show. And he's got a lot of little signs warning people to stay away. Not only do they have guard dogs, they have rabid guard dogs. And they're hungry rabid guard dogs. There's also landmines, so they go through a lot of guard dogs. He made the pond in the background here using the Envirotex and painting the bottom. Many of the trees you see on this layout are trees that were saved from previous layouts. We have boxes and boxes of trees. Underneath this, in this portion right here that you're seeing, is our reversing loop, where you can change the direction by going around in a loop and turn back on yourself to switch sides. There you see the reversing loop controls. Oops. Sorry about that. Up here you have this mountain type scene. This mountain was built by other club members long in the past, and was saved from the original layout and has been utilized here as a backdrop. Underneath you can see the complexity of the wiring. We used to have an easy cab system, which was the digital DC, and we no longer use it. We're now just strictly DCC, all digital. One of the matrices which we make ourselves in order to throw all the switches. So if you were to push a button on this panel, for example this one here, all the switches that would need to be thrown in order for you to get onto this track would throw automatically. This is our main area. You come in the front door, this is what you get to see when you walk right in beside the Helix. 2 mains with 2 passing sidings on it. This is another creation of Fred's. The logging mill, the pond was saved from an original layout. He added the logs onto the top using Envirotex poured on top and made the logging mill. This track is a separate track from the whole layout. It runs on DC only. And you can see here another one of Fred's creations, this little kit model. This little kit model of Fred's, which I had to pause to get it to turn on. This is a self-enclosed logging loop. There are some little sensors in the track. I'm zooming in on it now. When the train hits that sensor, it throws these switches here and here and reverses the polarity on this middle section. So this train will run around in circles all day long and just keep going. Some more of the mountains that were made previously. Handmade trestle bridge that was scratch built. Everything you see here is old and been integrated into this newer layout. Fred's little logging camp with his handmade logging huts that they would haul around on skids to get to other locations. You can see there's one on a flat car ready to go. There's the little logging train going behind the mountain, and it's going to hit a sensor in the back over there, and the switches switch, and the layouts, the little spur is ready to go in the other direction. This is the Wisconsin Dells area. This train station and this whole section here that you're about to see were modeled by Jim Rogan and Neil Frost. Everything you see here is new, with the exception of the walls for the Wisconsin River. These were manufactured or made scratch made by somebody else, I don't know who, and they have reused them in this recreation of the Wisconsin Dells. Even includes the little dog that jumped across the rock onto the shore. The Wisconsin Ducks. Campers. A fire tower. Most of the trees in this were manufactured by another individual, not a member of the club, for 25 cents a tree, and they bought a whole bunch of pine trees. The tunnel and all the rocks for the tunnel they made themselves with castings. They're all made out of plaster, and then painted them to try and match the paint on the walls for the Wisconsin River. This is a Envirotex pour that they put in and colored in order to make it look like the Wisconsin River. This is the power plant, which was built by Dave Stone. It's a newer power plant. They had an original power plant that was much larger, but it would not fit in this space. So this is where all the coal comes in to get dumped into the power plant coal pile and then burned to make electricity. All the track, everything here is functional. You can go on it, switch on it, haul cars around, do the whole thing if you wanted to. The backdrop picture here is actually a photograph of the mountains in the Adirondack Mountains in New York, taken from Fort Ticonderoga. It's just a big, huge panorama. It even features a miniature Godzilla coming up over the hill. Here we have the Frogan Paper Company, which is a conglomeration of the last names of Neil Frost and Jim Rogan, who modeled these two buildings and built this whole little section right over here. They are also the ones who did this little farm field and assisted in manufacturing of these grain elevators and painting them and all that other such like that. This is the intermodal facility for containers. This area is currently under construction. It was being delayed in work because they wanted to get the back finished before they started working on the front. Then this is going to get covered with plexiglass, a little wall of plexiglass up about this high to keep it from getting damaged. Everything you're seeing here is Neil Frost and Jim Rogan. All the manual turnouts are electrified manual turnouts. This is an auto rack facility. A roadway and bridge which were saved from a previous layout. This area you see on this side here was manufactured or built by a former club member, Bill, who made this rail service yard. This area here is an area under construction. It's a oil facility for gasoline, petrol, whatever you want to call it. This area all along here is all for just an industry. This is the steel mill, which has gone through 3 different versions. The model is HO scale that's been converted to N scale, meaning it's got little miniature doors instead of the larger doors. It was done this way to make it more impressive. You can see in this model here that silhouette is actually where the HO scale door used to be. Some of the little parts in this are scratch built, others are kit bought. Here the layout goes from a 2-track main to a 3-track main. The steel mill operates as a reversing loop. You enter at one section and exit at the same point. This has been modeled by several different people, so no credit will be awarded here as far as who's done what, but I've done work on this, or everybody's done work on this over the years. This is the other end of the rail service yard. This area here that you're about to see is been modeled by one of our newer members named Dan, who wanted to create some sort of scenery around one of the reversing loops, similar to the other side, complete with its own removable access in the event of a derailment under the bridge here. It's even got some guys back there making moonshine. And Bigfoot. This is the other helix on the other end, which is a 3-level helix, triple track. On top is Altoona, which was a model that was built by club members quite a number of years ago and has moved from layout to layout. We have reintegrated it into this layout here. Buildings on this portion are lighted. These tracks that you're seeing right now are just dummy tracks. They're dead. You couldn't drive on them anyways, you'd fall off. section of dead track or abandoned track with the bridges still intact. Just to scenic that area back there. This is the back half. You can see we have a mirror up here so you can see what's going on in the back half. These two tracks on the wall are a connection from the main layout via this drop-away bridge to our traveling layout, the layout that we take to shows. This little portion you're seeing right now is actually permanent. It's on here all the time. It's the segue from the main layout to the traveling one. If you've gone to any railroad shows and you've seen our layout on the road, you'll see layout modules like this and the others, plus these other ones that we have mounted on the wall for storage at shows. We're able to drive over onto these and then reverse and come back. Now we've got a tank in the scene. That's an addition. And here we have club member Dan. Say hello, Dan. And that's the updated 2020 video of the layout. Oh, what are the blue LED strips for? That's for running at night. Let's just show you what that looks like real quick. This is for night running.